Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I've got another Destiny 2 Titan build in Season of the Witch that I've been very much enjoying. Once again, this one is focused on two underutilized and off-meta exotics that I am really enjoying. So first off, we have Hallowfire Heart. It's got the armor perk Sunfire Furnace. Solar takedowns while standing in a sunspot create a sunspot. Greatly improves recharge rate of your solar abilities while your super is charged. Provides a small benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons. So solar takedowns here, that can count weapons as well. That's why I'm going to pair it with a solar exotic where you can use anything for this. You can use a Tiku's, you can use Sunshot, but I am using Tommy's Matchbook because I just find this weapon to be insanely fun to use. It is hilarious. It's got the intrinsic trait, Ignition Trigger. Sustained fire, this weapon overheats it, increases damage but burning the user. And then you've got Heat Sink, overheat damage is reduced while not aiming down sights. While overheated, sustained fire scorches your target. And again, you can scorch a lot, you can create a lot of sunspots, and the overheat damage is mitigated when you are in a sunspot. Plus, you see me, I'm pretty much always firing from the hip with this weapon as well. It's just a very nice combo that I enjoy using. Melts adds, it can do pretty chunky damage to bigger enemies as well, whether they are Lucent Hive or champions or anything like that. So that's why I like this build quite a bit. Then we've got Hammer of Soul. I'm also using the throwing hammer, and then the grenade. You can use whatever you want, but I'm using a solar grenade. Moving on, we've got the Roaring Flames as the first aspect. This is just going to increase the damage of my solar abilities and ignitions. And then finally, Sol Invictus. This is where it all comes together, allowing me to create more sunspots. My abilities regenerate faster and super drains more slowly. While standing in a sunspot, sunspots apply scorch and deal damage to targets inside. So when I'm creating the sunspots, essentially I can sit in them. All the kind of thrall or whatever is pushing me is dying pretty much instantly from my sunspots. They're all getting scorched. They're exploding over time if they're a little chunkier and they don't die instantly from my sunspot. Plus, I'm able to use that to gain health and survive. It's just a nice gameplay loop that I very much enjoy. As far as the fragments, I'm going with Searing. This is going to allow me to create fire sprites and grant melee energy, which I don't really need, but the fire sprites are really, really handy. Then we've got the Ember of Wonder. This is going to allow me to generate orbs through my ignitions, and then torches, allowing me to be radiant pretty much all the time. And then finally, Ember of Ashes to apply more scorch stacks because I am scorching with everything in this build, whether it's my sunspots, whether it is my Tommy's Matchbook, all of that kind of comes together. I'm creating lots of the sunspots, I'm creating lots of scorched enemies, and it is just such a fun gameplay loop in my opinion. We've got also Riptide on. This you can use whatever special weapon in this the first slot that you want to. You can use a shotgun, you can use a sniper, whatever the case may be. It's all personal preference there. I just still like Riptide, even though I know it was nerfed. And then also I'm using Roar of the Bear. Once again, this can be swapped out depending on what your need is for this specific build and what type of content you're using it in. As far as the mods go, I'm running Hands-On, Heavy Ammo Finder, and Solar Siphon. Then we've got Firepower, Solar Loader, and Focusing Strike, Concussive Dampener, Unflinching Solar Aim, and Solar Reserves, Invigoration, Solar Weapon Search, and Invigoration, and then finally we've got Outreach, Distribution, and Reaper. Again, some of these mods are interchangeable, but overall you're going to want to have the majority of them on in order to generate your abilities as quickly as possible, generate a ton of orbs of power, and also get a boost to your weapon damage as well. Then on the artifact, we've got some standard stuff. I do like running Elemental Embrace and then Elemental Munitions, Elemental Fury, Communal Pickups, Refreshing Pickups. We've got I'm actually going to use Elemental Orbs. Solar here is going to come in really handy, and then other than that, it's just a personal preference. But all of that means that you're going to generate a lot of those Solar Orbs as well. Again, you don't really need them, but they're just fun to kind of toss around in different activities. And so ultimately, this build for me is just pure fun. You can just sit there and spray with your Tommy's Matchbook. You could throw on another heavy machine gun solar LMG if you want to as well, and just keep spraying with this as well while you're in a Sunspot. But again, personal preference. I just like having Riptide and then Aurora the Bear for like boss damage. but your super is actually going to do quite a bit of boss damage as well. Plus, you don't really need to use your super all the time if you don't want to. You can hold on to it, and once again, you're going to be generating your abilities back so fast that you can just kind of spam grenades, spam your throwing hammer, and then if you lose it, you get it back quickly enough that it's not a big deal. You can also spam your barricade as well if you want, but holding on to that means that your grenade is going to be regenerating even faster because there's less abilities that have to be taking advantage of the sunspots and the ability regeneration. So overall, again, this is very much fun for me. I've used it across not only the Seventh Spire, but Altar of Sorrows, also in the raid for a bit, just because there are times when I'm playing with people who I'm unfamiliar with. If I'm playing with new folks in a raid, I like to make sure my survivability is on point, so that way if they're struggling, if they're dying a lot, I can make sure I can go res them all the time. I can stay alive, use my sunspot to heal them as well. It just all kind of combines to really help out my team, and that's one of the things I really focus on in Destiny 2 as much as possible, which I don't think people consider all the time, is team play. I want to make sure that if I'm playing with randoms, which I do very often, whether it's Gambit, strikes, nightfalls, raids, whatever the case may be, if I'm LFGing, that I am the best teammate possible. I'm allowing the rest of my teammates to do what they can do to stay alive. I'm healing them. I'm helping them stay alive. All of that is very important to me. And having a build that gives me 100% sustainability with not only being able to stay alive, but also dishing out nice little chunks of damage. Sure, it might not peak as high as something like the Syntheseps builds that you're going to see, but overall, for me, this one is a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend trying it out, especially if you're a player who's a little bit more cautious, wants to stay alive a bit better, and not really worry about having to do all of your damage with hitting every single hammer throw that you have, because I know there are people like me sometimes who do struggle with the hammer throw. If you miss a hammer, it can feel real bad in a Synthos build or something like that. So it's just something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think of the build? Are you excited about this season in Destiny? I feel like it's one of the best we've had in quite some time. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to keep testing out all of these different exotics that we've had from the past and see how they work in different builds and see how much I enjoy them. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Destiny 2 content. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one. I'll catch you all later.